Cindy, and today I'm going to be showing you my two favorite techniques for gathering ruffles. The first way is by adjusting the tension on your sewing machine. Normally mine is set at about a 3 or 4 for tension. I'm going to bump it all the way up as high as it'll go. In this case it's a 9. And I also want to increase my stitch length as high as it will go, which is a 5 on my machine. Okay? Then I want to pull off some tails with my bobbin and my top thread. So I have some tails so I can adjust the gathers when I finish. Whether I need to increase the gathers or decrease them to match up with my waistband on Amanda's triple ruffle skirt. So then I'm going to take my fabric, and I like to start just a little bit away from where my side seam is, and I'll put the presser foot down, and then as I'm sewing I'm going to be applying tension to the top thread here. The more tension I apply by kind of tugging on it as it's coming off the spool, the more the fabric's going to gather under the presser foot. The less tension I apply, the less fabric will gather. So you can adjust it based on how full the gather or how tight the gather needs to be for the waistband or the connector or whatever it is you're going to be attaching the ruffle to. If you don't apply any tension on the spool, the fabric will still gather under the presser foot. It just will be a very, very loose, barely noticeable gather. So I'll show you both ways. Alright, so this is going to be applying significant tension, but not enough so that it breaks the thread while it's sewing. You want to just kind of find that sweet spot, and I suggest you play around with some scraps to get a feel for how this works. So let's get started. Applying tension to that top thread as it's coming off the spool. And I'm getting a nice full tight gather. I'll show you this in just a minute. Now I'm going to put a little less tension on the top thread. So it's kind of just gliding through my fingers, and I'm not really pulling on it too much. Now I'm just going to let the machine do it with the tension set at 9 and the stitch length set at 5, and I'm not going to hold the top thread at all. Okay, now let me show you the differences. And again, you would want to cut off so you have some tails so that you could work with tightening your gathers or letting them out if you need to adjust them when you attach them to the waistband or to a bodice or whatever it would be. Okay, so this was the very beginning when I was applying a lot of tension to the top thread, and you can see I have nice, tight, full gathers here, and that's probably what I would need for doing Amanda's triple ruffle skirt. This is when I eased up on the tension, so I still have some nice little pleating, gathering going on here, but not as much as I had right here, okay? And then this is when I was letting the machine do the work and I wasn't applying any tension, and it's just kind of like a little wave sort of, or a ripple. Okay, so just by holding on to that top thread and applying a little extra tension, you can really achieve a nice tight gather. Alright? Okay, now that's not my favorite way to gather though. My favorite way is using clear elastic, because this way I can get my ruffle to match up precisely with the measurement of whatever it is I'm trying to sew it onto later, whether it's a bodice of a dress or in this case the waistband for Amanda's triple ruffle skirt. The first thing you need to do is you need to take the item that you're going to sew the ruffle to. So for me it's the waistband, and I want to measure the clear elastic so that it will be the same length as the circumference of that waistband. Okay, and then you want to sort of pre-stretch your elastic a little bit by giving a little tug and go down the full length of it. And I already did that before I started filming. So once you have pre-stretched it, then you want to match it back up, make sure it's still matching the length of the waistband, trim off any excess that you need to. After you were stretching, you might find that it has stretched out an inch or two more than what you originally cut. Alright, then we'll set the waistband aside. We're going to take the piece of fabric that we're going to be ruffling, and we're going to sew the clear elastic onto the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, and I need to adjust my tension back down to my normal settings. Stitch length back down to my normal setting. And you're going to, oh, I forgot one step. Okay, you need to mark off the halfway and quarter points on your skirt and your elastic. So I'm going to fold my elastic in half, and I want to take a pen and just make a little mark here. So that would represent like the halfway point. Fold my elastic in half again, and these are going to be my like quarter of the way points. Okay, so I've got that marked off. My side seams of my ruffle are going to be marked already for me. Got my side seams, and my fabric already has creases in the middle that I can use as points of reference right there, but I'm going to go ahead and just put a little mark on it so that when I get to that spot, I really see it and know to match it up. Okay? All right, now let's get started on sewing the clear elastic to this. You want to make sure that you backstitch in the very beginning so that it locks your stitch in place and holds that clear elastic, because you're going to be applying a lot of tension to it. So I'm just going to do a couple stitches back. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to take the first quarter point that I had marked off of my clear elastic, and I'm going to need to stretch it so that it meets all the way up with the halfway point there on my ruffle. And you're going to see I'm going to have to stretch it a lot. Don't be afraid to stretch it. It's going to feel like it's going to snap back or break. It's not going to break. It may snap back. If it does that, then just readjust and remeasure and get a good grip on it again. So I'll just start sewing. Once I've done that. And from time to time, you're going to need to readjust your position. So again, just stretching it back to that point. Readjusting my elastic and my fabric, sewing. Again, readjusting. Keep sewing. Okay, so I've done that point. Now I've got my next point on my elastic. Same thing, going to line it up with my side seam now. And I would stretch it, and continue sewing it down while that elastic is stretched nice and tight. Okay, now I'm going to stop right there because I have already finished up a piece doing that. And I just kept matching up the points, kept stretching the elastic till it got all the way around to my starting point, and then I just back stitched it down so that it wouldn't go anywhere. Okay, and you can see here, nice tight gathers, clear elastic is right here. It doesn't matter, that's going to be an inside, it's going to be hidden in your seam allowance as you sew this onto your connector piece or your bodice or whatever it is you're attaching your ruffle to. And then if you serge, it's going to end up cutting that clear elastic right off. But even if you don't serge it, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything by keeping that clear elastic in after it's attached. And so then let me show you. Here's my waistband piece. And if I line this up now, I'm just going to line it up all the way down. You should see that it is going to match up perfectly with my waistband piece. And it does! Isn't that awesome? So you don't have to go back and readjust your gathers or let them out. It's going to match up perfectly with the measurement that you took in the beginning with your clear elastic. Okay, so I hope you'll find that those are two fast or convenient ways for you to gather to make it a little less painless than stitching 2 lines and then having to tediously sit there pulling those bobbin threads to get those gathers that you need. All right, you guys have a great day. Have fun making your Amanda's triple ruffle skirt.
Hi, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe.